Okay, coming back on a Monday in the middle of working on assignment 7. We went over the course outline. We're almost to the last day of our course outline, and we have this project, assignment 7, due today, April 28th. And then we're going to be introducing our final project today as well. So what are the actual requirements for assignment 7? If we look at the project itself, there's only 2 things you need to submit to Canvas to meet the requirements. You need to submit your photo reference, at least one, but multiple references are more helpful, especially inspiration references. And then you need to post your finished painting. And I put finished in quotes there because it's basically a finished painting for this means that you have at least worked through 2 different paint layers, a base paint layer and a refined paint layer. So as we've been demoing, I've posted my photo inspirations and my artistic inspirations. And then this was just my progress as of the end of the first day. But right now, I've built up to what's called a base color layer, my kill whitey phase, right? What is a base color? A base color needs to be at 100% opacity. So you're using a 100% opaque brush. And I want that to be a somewhat customized brush, right? So I'm using Karl brush right here. And I'm painting with white, which isn't that helpful. So let's pick a color. You can use option to choose your colors, right? And the kill whitey phase doesn't do this. This is going to be for refined painting, where you're painting with lower opacities. Instead, you push that all the way up to 100%, so you can get coverage. This is like priming your canvas. So you can see this base paint layer, what I call base color, it has soft edges because of the custom brush I'm using. But if I turn it off, you see how everything underneath it is completely covered at 100% by this base color. And the whole point of it is to get rid of all of the empty space, all of the white. So if I turn off everything, all my references, even this background, you'll see where my base color layer has holes in it. So that's why I like to have my shape sketch, which is kind of that airbrushed version, underneath it. But the shape sketch is at a lower opacity. But when you put white behind it, like that, it helps you see how it all fills in. Now, what if I take that white base layer, because I expanded my canvas size a little bit, and I fill that. So I'm going to fill that with 100% white. And now I can see my edges a little bit more clearly. And on this base paint layer, you want to kind of address your edges. So with my base color, with a 100% brush, I can go in and I can fill in this stuff, right? Now it obviously helps to have your reference available. So I'm also going to put all my references into a folder. So I can just turn them on and off as needed. And I'm going to lock that because I don't want to accidentally paint on it. And then the only reason I might have my shape sketch unlocked is because I might want to cut out from that. So what kind of shape do I want at the bottom? I don't want it just to be arbitrarily cut with a horizontal. I like some of the energy from my shape painting, so I'm going to go ahead and make it kind of a jagged and then delete, with my lasso. Make it kind of jagged. This is on my shape sketch layer, not my base painting layer, because my base painting layer, I control all the edges with my brush. Right, were there other areas where I might clean it up a little bit, maybe right there, but not too many. Right, now here's a trick. If I turn off my background, you can see there are still the checkerboard coming through my painting. And if I don't want that, if I like how it looks when there's white behind it, this is what I can do. I can take my base color layer, which is at 100%, right? And my shape sketch layer, can select them both, and then I can merge them. So Command E. So now it's all in one place. What's nice about that is then when I turn off the background, you see how the checkerboard is a little bit covered, but not fully opaque covered. So now what I do is I add an offset, a base layer behind my base color, but that base layer needs to be white. So how do I do that? I use my magic wand with contiguous turned on. I select the empty pixels around my image. Notice? And anywhere that they're kind of floating, this is why you want to paint with 100% opacity. That's where you can trim. I'm going to use my lasso, and I'm going to find that edge. There's another way that you can do this which helps too, which is using layer styles just to see where your edges are. But if I use the lasso, or I use the magic wand, then I can see it. And then I can just add these things in. These are little airbrushed auras, right? Left over from my shape painting sketch. And you might have that from a linear sketch as well. Okay, now this all looks pretty tight. I don't mind a little fuzz around the crown. Okay, so now I'm going to take that selection, I'm going to move it to this base layer, and I'm going to duplicate it. But before I can duplicate it, I need to unlock it. So now I duplicate it, but I got to invert it first. So invert and then duplicate. And now you see I have just a white cutout kind of showing my painting. So sometimes I'll do traditional painting on wood panel, you know, like this one, like this one. And sometimes I'll do the traditional painting as a shape on the wood panel so that the wood grain comes through in the negative space. So this would be like how I treat the wood panel, and then I would stencil and gesso and prime just where I want my painting to be. That's what this is. That's what has to happen on t-shirts. If you're printing on a dark t-shirt, you have to first put a primer layer down in the shape of your design so that the inks can fill it up. So now I fill it up with my base color layer, and I lock these others. Now, in order to see the color better, I don't want just a white background. I'm going to duplicate that, and now I'm going to fill it in with middle gray. Why middle gray? It's like when we were doing our digital coloring. It's much easier to see your lights and darks when you don't have a bright white background. It shows me I can go have a lot more midtones and a lot more darks in my coloring, in my painting. And that's a good phase for this next step. So I've gotten the first kind of requirement of digital painting. I have a base color layer. But now I'm going to make a new layer and set it up, and this is called refined paint. We've seen a lot of digital painters, kind of speed paintings in your presentations, and they all do some variety of this. Some of them use hundreds of layers, right? But I'm saying you need to use at least two. A base color, which is the layer I called Kill Whitey, that's at 100% opacity, and then the refined paint layer, which is at a lower opacity. Lower opacity allows you to blend. So if I hit Command 0, I make it fill the screen, and I'm going to go ahead and fill the entire screen here. I'm going to save my work, Command S. It's saving with my name to my Assignment 7 folder. Check where things are saving. If you're unsure, save them to the desktop, and then move them after the fact. All right, now I'm going to use my custom brush, and you are welcome to use other brushes as well, as long as you know how to customize a brush. Like I have another brush I customized. It's called a very wet brush, right? That's what it looks like. That's at 100%. This is a good refined brush for me. But in order to make it useful, I need to change its brush settings. So I can find those here, but I can also find them under Window Brush Settings. And the one I want to change is Shape Dynamics. I want to play with its size, jitter, its minimum diameter, its angle jitter especially, and its roundness jitter. And then I want to make its control based on pin pressure for size. Okay. And now that's a really nice kind of finishing brush. It's got a nice organic texture to it. But in order to make it different than what I've been doing with the base paint layer, is I need to take it to a lower opacity, like around 60%, maybe even 50%. And now I'm going to work it fairly small, like the size of a pencil eraser. And now I can start painting and holding down Option to steal color. And now look at this difference. This blends between the paints I have. Because every time I layer it, so this is the base paint layer, right? Look what this layer does, this refined paint. Every time I paint over with this lower opacity, you see how the colors blend and I get new color combinations. This brush just is a stamp like this, right? It's a little bit softer edged. And what that does to my painting is it builds the subtlety between these edges. Now, it's tempting to really, really zoom in. Do not ever do more than, I would say, 100% to start with, because that's actually how you're going to see the pixels. And often this is what I need to do. I need to take my reference layers for something I'm working on, and I actually need to open up some of those outside of Photoshop. This is just the way I do it. So I have it open in Canvas here, but I also have it here. So I'm going to open up my references. My hero reference is right there, but the eyes open reference is right here. So I'm just going to have that open in preview, put that right there. So as I paint, just like keeping a photograph next to my easel or my drafting table painting at home, now I can actually paint his eyes. I can't steal color from him, but I can steal color from the swatches, from the color screen here, or from myself. So I just need to get those colors placed. And very important, remember, lock the layers. I almost painted on my reference layer. So luckily it was locked. Now I can paint in the eyes, and a little highlight on the eye. And I want a blue for his eyes, like that. And I want a pink for his lower eyelid, and his upper eyelid, maybe a deeper red. So remember, it's only going to be 60%. And then see where it catches light. And you do not need to be a pro at this in order to experiment with it, have fun with it. It gets easier once you've had some experience with observational drawing and painting. And this is more like watercolor than it is like oil paint, because it feels like it stains a very light surface every time I make a mark. But unlike traditional watercolor, I can always paint over it and just replace it back with white if I needed to. So I'm painting it a little bit more like a thinned out acrylic. But I'm keeping everything pretty hard edged. The only way I'm blending is with the low opacities. Just by painting over and merging between. So the refined painting is what can take a long time, especially if you're zoomed in too much, right? So don't zoom in more than 100%. And then the other thing that can help is to have the navigator on. So you'll find that in Window. The navigator is this tool which allows you to zoom in and out and to move around your canvas. and it has the